I never imagined that one conversation could change everything in my life. I walked into the living room that morning, my heart heavy, hoping for at least a bit of understanding from my family. I had always tried to be responsible, careful, and supportive, but today, all of that seemed meaningless. My sister sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a smirk barely hidden on her face. She looked up and said casually, "Why should we help you? You've always been the weak one. We can't waste our money on someone who can't manage." I froze. My chest tightened. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I looked at my parents, hoping for some reaction, some spark of compassion, but Dad just glanced at the floor, while Mom whispered, "You'll learn responsibility the hard way." I couldn't understand it. I had always thought family meant support, meant protection, but in that moment, I realized that everything I knew about love and loyalty had been twisted by someone else's manipulation. And then came the ultimate betrayal. My sister took it a step further. She openly reached for the envelope of money that had been set aside for me, my inheritance, the one thing Dad had carefully kept for me. She said, "I'll take this," almost laughing, as if I wasn't even in the room. My hands shook, but there was nothing I could do. I felt the world collapse around me. I felt abandoned, humiliated, and powerless all at once. My mind raced. Was this what my life had become? I was angry, yes, but deeper than that, I felt a growing fire, something that refused to stay buried. And then I noticed something. A small envelope tucked under the lamp, unmarked, quiet, almost hidden in plain sight. Inside were legal documents, contracts, and a secret clause Dad had left behind, something he had never told anyone, not even my sister. My pulse quickened as I flipped through the papers. I realized in that instant that she had underestimated me. She thought I was weak. She thought I was powerless, but she didn't know. She had no idea what was coming. I stared at the envelope for a long moment, feeling a rush of clarity and purpose. That file, left by Dad, was my lifeline, my hidden weapon. And as I held it, I made a silent vow. I would show them. I would fight. And this time, I wouldn't just survive. I would win. Weeks passed, and I moved silently, strategically. I knew I couldn't act impulsively. My sister believed she had already won. She went about her life with the confidence of someone who had everything figured out. She laughed at me, mocked my lack of resources, and assumed I had given up. But inside, I was anything but powerless. I meticulously studied every document Dad had left me, every contract, every clause, every possible loophole that could be exploited. I took notes, organized files, and slowly began to construct a plan that no one, not my sister, not my parents, could see coming. I hired a lawyer discreetly, someone who could handle the situation quietly, efficiently. We gathered evidence, financial records, past communication, phone messages, even recordings of conversations that clearly showed her manipulation. Every time she smiled or sneered, it became part of the record. Every careless boast became leverage. The more I prepared, the more confident I felt. I wasn't just planning revenge. I was ensuring justice. The contrast was staggering. While my sister spent her days celebrating her victory, I was quietly building the foundation to overturn it completely. And the best part? She had no idea. Then came the day of confrontation. I entered the office, calm, composed, documents in hand. My sister, ever smug, barely looked up from her phone. She believed, as always, that she was untouchable. I smiled faintly and asked, "Do you recognize these?" I laid out the files methodically, each one a piece of the puzzle she had ignored or dismissed. Her expression faltered. Confusion flickered across her face, quickly replaced by disbelief. I watched as her confidence wavered, as the smugness drained away. My lawyer explained every detail, highlighting clauses she had ignored, violations she had overlooked, and her own missteps. The air was thick with tension. For the first time, my sister realized she was not in control. The scales were shifting. Her plans, carefully laid over months, were unraveling, and there was nothing she could do. The quiet satisfaction I felt was unlike anything I had ever experienced. I had been underestimated, mocked, and abandoned, but now the tide had turned, and the power I held was undeniable. This was no longer about money or inheritance. It was about proving to everyone, especially her, that underestimating me was a grave mistake. And as I left that room, I knew she would never view me the same way again. The courtroom was the final battleground. Everything I had prepared, every careful step, every ounce of strategy came to fruition. The room was silent, almost reverent as we presented our case. My sister, once confident and untouchable, now sat across the table, pale and silent. The weight of her own actions pressed down on her. My parents, too, were present, finally realizing their judgment and support had been misplaced. The judge methodically went through the documents, contracts, and proof. Each piece of evidence landed like a hammer, demonstrating a pattern of manipulation and deceit that could not be ignored. My sister tried to argue, but the meticulous preparation left her with no room to maneuver. Every loophole she had relied upon had already been covered. Every attempt to twist the situation back in her favor failed spectacularly. In the end, the verdict was clear. The inheritance, the money she had taken, and the property she had assumed would be hers were returned to me. My sister was stunned, utterly speechless. The smugness that had defined her was replaced by shock, then humiliation. It was a quiet, controlled victory, but one that carried immense satisfaction. I didn't celebrate with gloating or anger. The satisfaction was subtle, profound. I had been betrayed by the people I had trusted the most. They had underestimated me. They thought I was powerless. But through strategy, patience, and careful planning, I had taken control of my own destiny. And my sister? She will never forget the day she underestimated me, because she never expected the final document.